Death just shows the ultimate absurdity of life.
Are you trying to get me to lose my temper because I'm about to put you through that goddamn window?
See? That's what I mean. Life is absurd.
Don't say that. God forgive you.
There is no God.
Hey!
After 2 seasons, The Sopranos remains one of the hottest shows on television. This past Sunday night's 2-hour premiere of the new season set a record with 11.3 million viewers. Creator, writer, and executive producer David Chase is the man behind the show. After a career as a writer and producer of such shows as The Rockford Files and Northern Exposure, he came up with the idea of a television series about the family life of a contemporary mafioso family. After being turned down by 4 networks, he brought the show to HBO. It has turned out to be the most successful show ever for the cable network. The New York Times called it a masterpiece, the greatest work of American popular culture of the last quarter century. Here is a scene from one of the programs.
The latest thought on treatment of panic attack syndrome is a 3-pronged approach.
So it's a syndrome.
Medication to treat the depression, psychotherapy, and cognitive behavioral therapy.
We've got you on medication. If you feel you're ready, you could see a behaviorist.
What do you mean? Talk to somebody else?
I am pleased to welcome David Chase to this table for the very first time. We have wanted him here for a while, and I'm finally glad we got him. Welcome. You don't do a lot of this, do you?
I have lately.
Oh, you have, so with the new season.
More and more.
Do you think that's part of the reason you got so much attention? I mean, every magazine, so many television and newspaper stories about it contributed to the anticipation of the new season?
I don't know. We didn't seek it, really. I mean, I know I didn't.
I mean, you don't have to seek it. It's out there. But
it's out there, yeah.
But it brought you into the process, too. I mean,
it brought me into the process more. I mean, I've done more of this as the show went on the air. I never had done it. 3 years ago, I'd never been in front of a camera or talked to a journalist.
Yeah.
And it's been a kind of a learning curve.
And you know what you've been missing. I mean, do you now realize your life was incomplete?
I do. I really do. It's a strange...
Because you hadn't been on television and you hadn't spent a lot of time talking to journalists.
It's a lot of the things that you hear about it turn out to be true.
For better or worse.
Right, exactly.
Right. That's a classic moment there for me because of the following. It shows you his humanity, in a sense. I mean, he's real. He's saying all the things. Your ear says, gee, that sounds exactly the way it ought to sound, you know, to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting dialogue. Help me out.
Well, to me, that sounds like sort of like my father, or anybody's father. You know, that business.
I'm putting money in your pocket. Where are the results?
Enough money in your pocket. Yeah,
I'm putting money in your pocket. Where are the results?
My father-in-law. That's the way they would talk.
Because if I put money on the table, I expect something.
Exactly.
And I don't happen to believe I'm seeing anything from my money.
Right.
Now, we're either going to find something or else we're going to stop this.
Correct. He's not really doing what it takes to produce results. He's not the best patient in the world.
Yeah.
Probably not the worst either.
And he doesn't want to go through this behavior modification stuff. He's doing enough of that.
Right. Right.
Now, where did this idea come from of a mafia, a made man, a mafia person going to a psychiatrist?
Well, I've been in therapy a lot myself since my early 30s.
Well, there it goes.
So you have to have a working knowledge of that, and I think every writer on our show has spent quite a bit of time in that chair.
David, just stop. Are you saying to me that this show has this component because it meant so much to the lives of the people who create the show?
No, I'm saying now. Now, it meant a lot to me. Therapy was very important to me. I don't know that it ever changed me all that much.
Yeah.
But certainly having that release valve, and I did learn things about myself. So I knew a lot about therapy. And therapy, I always found therapy to be an interesting, somewhat funny interchange between people.
Yeah.
It's kind of, there's something about it that's silly, and I always liked it. And you know, I was in therapy because my parents were who they were. Naturally, that's probably the only reason you go. And my mother was an eccentric, kind of very morbid person, and so I found myself in therapy. And my wife had always said to me, "You really have to write about your mother because she's very funny." And I always got a lot of dinner parties and places. I always got the most amount of laughs telling parent stories because my mother was who she was.
This series, why did you create it? other than you needed to do something, and so why not?
I needed to do something.
Is that it?
I needed to do something. I was waiting for my big break in the movies, which I was waiting for years and years and years, toiling away in television unhappily.
Yeah. That's why you're going to see The Shrink.
Well, that was part of that was a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I would go to the Shrink and I'd say, you know, why hasn't the movies discovered me, and why can't I make this break? And
Yes.
they would try to they would try not to say because you're a whore and you take the money. They'd try to say something better than that, but that was the truth. And so I was, you know, so I had a development deal in the hopes that I always used to take these TV development deals at different companies, and I would try to write screenplays at the same time. Would be like a stipend or a fellowship.
Right.
It would allow me to write screenplays while I was developing TV. And then after the Larry Sanders Show, I wanted to be at what was then Brillstein Gray.
Right.
And I went there, and they said they wanted a show that sort of pushed the envelope. And that's what I wanted to hear. And actually, there was a guy there who worked for Brad named Lloyd Braun, who's now, I guess, head of ABC, who gave me this very inspiring
He's
speech.
a great guy. I know him.
He gave me
the co-head of their entertainment division.
Right. He gave me a very inspiring speech about they believed I had a great TV series inside me. In the lobby by the elevator, and he said this, and I thought, I got sort of touched.
Yeah.
Because I was rather cynical about the whole thing.
Yeah. That you've got a great series.
That I've got a great series.
So how did you go from that to The Sopranos?
He said, in that same meeting, for example, he said, how would you like to do a series about, like The Godfather? And I said, no, I don't want to do a TV series like The Godfather. Because I kept picturing the overcoats and the 40s cars and things like that. And but then I was driving home, and the idea stuck, and I remembered I had this feature idea about which was just an idea, about a mobster who goes to therapy because his mother's driving him crazy, and the therapist helps him to realize that his mother is his enemy. I pitched this as a feature, and I thought, well, gee, maybe that would work as a series.
And so you went to put pencil to paper, and there you were.
No, we went and pitched that to Fox, and
they said,
you know, we fleshed it out, and they said, yeah, fine, go write it. And then I wrote it, and nothing ever happened.
And so did that turn out to be the pilot?
That was the pilot.
So you come up with a pilot. Gandolfini. How crucial is he to this series?
There's no way to state it. The show wouldn't be at all if it wasn't for him. We probably would have gotten to make the show. I don't think we'd be here today. He just is that character, and the humanity that he projects. Sounds like the humanity he projects, but the humanity that he embodies and that comes through his eyes is the key to everything.
What do you mean by humanity? He has feelings.
His feelings, not only that he has feelings, I think that people see him as a person much like themselves, you know, walking around on this third planet from the sun, not knowing what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that's right. It just so happens that he's part of an enterprise that engages in theft and killing and lots of other things. Mm-hmm. But he has all the same kinds of...
I think so.
That's part of it, isn't it? You're creating that these people, you know, they're not like movie heroes. These are real people who have real lives and real issues and real girlfriends and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
They just happen to be engaged in a business that's criminal.
I don't know that it's that they just happen to be. They are. They've chosen this, and there must be something about their makeup that causes them to be in this business.
Why is it? Why are they the subject of so many movies and
mafia?
Yeah. What is it about the mafia? Is it the code?
People ask me this question more than anything else. It probably is the code. I think it's because the complexity of the world nowadays, and people's lives are governed by bureaucracies and institutions and media. But I think people are basically tribal. I think we still hanker to hang out with our tribe, and to be with a bunch of people who, at least we say, these guys will back me up, and I'll back them up no matter what. That, I think, is very appealing, that idea. And I think also the idea that justice is actually meted out there. You know, if somebody looks at you crooked or betrays you, you get to have your revenge, and they pay. And in our life, it doesn't happen.
And they do it with impunity.
They do it with impunity, and it's satisfying. I think it's satisfying for people to see turncoats get punished.
And people with their own code, too.
Right.
Uh,
That's the tribal code.
right, right. Just to give you a sense, if for somehow you have never seen this, and there are some people in America who've not seen The Sopranos, here it is, an episode from the current season.
This is about Sambo, right? I'm paying for that goddamn college.
I don't know what's going on over there. But if you want to make a big scene at your daughter's new college, then comb your hair and come right along. Embarrass her. Alienate her. Or better yet, cut her off. Let her drop out of there and go to a state school. Or maybe move back in here.
You've heard this too, and there are about 3 or 4 things I have to ask you because people who may not have heard you, even though you've been asking a lot, do you worry about glorifying these people? Where's your code?
Well, I'm the kind of person that worries about everything, but
That's everything.
But that's really a good question. I'm not. No, I actually no, because I think they're. At least he is paying every day. He doesn't seem happy to me.
He's paying because he's unhappy?
Well, he's miserable. He knows there's something really wrong.
David, I mean, come on. You know, I ask you, is he glorifying? Are you glorifying a lifestyle? You say, well, he's paying every day because he's unhappy. You know, he's unhappy. Therefore, he's paying. Somebody just did something terrible. That's okay. He's being punished because he's unhappy. He's not a happy person, so he's being punished. You see how silly this is.
Yeah, I guess so. Are we glorifying it? I don't know. To a certain extent, I guess we might be, but hanging out in the back of a pork store all day long,
Yeah.
that terrible room at the Bada Bing, I guess if that's glorifying a life, I'm not sure that it is. But certainly, it probably presents an appealing idea of the freedom.
Right.
Of just doing what you want all day long.
That's what it is about him. It's sort of intriguing. People think, oh my God, they hang out, they talk, they play cards, they go see their girlfriend. I mean, they do stuff.
After 3 episodes into the first season, my brother-in-law, who's a banker in Florida, said that a guy that he knows, after the 3rd episode, who was a bank president, I think, said after the show was over, said to his wife, you know, I wish I was Tony Soprano.
I tell you what this show has too, which I admire you for. It has very interesting and strong women.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They are.
Sister?
The sister, the daughter, Carmela, and
right.
Of course the mother, and Melvin.
Right.
Yeah, they are. That was not intentional. That's just.
It's just the writers happened to write them that way.
That's the way it came out.
Yeah. What's the challenge of creating a series like this, where there's much anticipation? You want a truckload of Emmys.
Of creating it or keeping it going.
Of keeping it going. In other words, you look at year 3 and you say, "Holy man! I mean, they're expecting a lot of me."
I do. I was feeling really good about the episodes until I read all these positive reviews, and then I started thinking, well, wait till they see episode F7 or something, you know. And as my wife says, you should not read it. Just leave it alone. And I think she's got a point. It's impossible not to, but it's just become so. I don't know. You think, well, nothing can possibly live up to what they've said. That's the way I feel. Nothing could live up to what they said. And I also noticed how journalists and audience members get very sort of pissy about it. You know, if the show doesn't go the way they wanted it to go or thought it was going to go, they become proprietary and kind of annoyed.
Yeah. I know people who love the show. I mean, I've listened to them talk about picking apart the first 2 episodes. And they're all saying that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are going to be much better, but, you know, these are the problems with 1 and 2. You know? Roll tape. You know it's true. Roll tape. Here it is.
If you'd rather, I can invite them all back to her place.
Janice, what are you doing?
Very good. We can all take a break from eating for 5 minutes. It won't kill us. Most of you will probably remember that this was her favorite song. I thought it might help us get rolling.
Now, there's been lots of talk that you're going to end this thing after the 4th season.
Yeah.
I asked Brad Gray about that. He said...
Yeah, I mean, I was asked this at the Museum of Modern Art, and I have a contract for 4 years,
right.
But I didn't realize that people would be so concerned about when the show was going to end, or that they would pay that much attention to what I said, and it created kind of a furor, to my surprise. All I really meant is that I would hate to have to do the show for contractual reasons if it had lost its juice.
You're introducing this lesbian element, too.
Not really. It doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't?
No.
It's just one scene there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the most exciting thing? Tell me why this season is exciting for you. Give me some sense of what makes this, where you're taking us.
This season. Why is this season exciting?
Are you pushing the envelope somewhere? What are you doing?
No, no. You know, that's a difficult. It's difficult not. That's a tricky thing, pushing the envelope, because you can push the envelope so much that you start to seem desperate, or
you do it
or it feels like you're pushing, and that's and I really want to avoid that at all costs. I almost would rather have. I almost rather have less happen.
You'd rather be redundant than be too out front.
Or slower paced than be like wacky. You know, I don't want it to get to that. But I think it's seeing the children grow up a little bit this season is what's really interesting.
Really?
Both Anthony Jr. and Meadow.
And what happens to them and how it all affects Tony.
Right. How it affects Tony and how growing up in that house has affected them.
Yeah. Edie Falco.
What about
her? Obvious pick for you? I mean, did you see somebody you'd seen before wanted, or did it happen in casting?
No. Yeah, it's happened in casting. I mean, she was recommended. I hadn't noticed her on Oz or seen her on Oz, and she was an HBO recommendation. So she came and auditioned like that.
Like that?
Just like that, yeah, no doubt.
And how'd you find Gallipini?
Same way. Although his audition process was a little more, happened in stages. He came in and...
Man, that must be torturous for an actor. They want you to come back. They may like you. They may not like you.
I've had
this is a big part.
I've had this realization just this year. I came to the realization that actors talk about their audition. I had a great audition, or I have to go to sleep tomorrow. I have an audition, or I'm working for this audition. And I had an audition 2 weeks ago. It was really great, and I realized that for many of them, that's as far as it gets. Yeah. So that audition is the performance. That's why they talk about their auditions like they've done it.
It's a performance.
It's a performance. Yeah.
This was when they were on stage, even though it was for 5 minutes on somebody's tape that they'll never see.
5 minutes after waiting in a drafty hallway in Queens, and for some of them, they'll remember this for a long time. Yeah. Even if they didn't get the role.
And in a word, why is this so sweet for you?
Well, there's no reason why it isn't. There's nothing.
No.
What's not to like?
Yeah.
You know?
But it is, in a sense, that it is the fulfillment of a dream. Create your own series.
Well, as I say, that had never really been my dream to create my own series.
I wanted to create movies.
Just create movies. But it has turned out that this has been creatively an amazing thing for me.
And has it changed your ambition, or are you still sitting there saying, this is something I'm doing until I make my great movie?
No, it has changed my ambition to a certain extent. I have found great creative satisfaction doing this. And I would still like to do a movie, because a movie is a whole other thing.
Promise me you will not do Soprano the movie.
Why do I have to promise that? Probably not, but why do I have to promise that?
You haven't thought about it before.
Yeah, people talk about it, you know.
You've thought about it?
People have not. I have. Of course, I've thought about it. I thought when after the pilot was made that the show would not. You know, they were trying to decide whether to buy it, and I thought, well, maybe what can happen is, if they don't buy it, they'll invest another $500,000 or something, and we can make it as a movie.
Would it make it as a movie? Would it?
Who knows?
You don't know.
No.
Because
typically they haven't been that good, but
I know.
This show has confounded a lot of expectations, so I'm not prepared to say it wouldn't.
You know, that's exactly right. And you don't know whether, I mean, sometimes television gives characters an opportunity to develop that movie don't have time to do. So you really get a chance to know and like Tony, or admire, or have fun, or enjoy, or whatever you might say. You get to know relationships you couldn't do in a movie.
Details.
Yeah. On the other hand, Traffic, a very successful movie this year, comes from a television series.
Right.
A British television series.
I know.
Different and condensed, but...
I know. I don't... Who knows if the weather would succeed as well.
It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
We'll check back in later in the season.
Please do.
David Chase, the creator of Soprano, the hottest, most talked about subject of this television series. It did phenomenal numbers as it opened its season on Sunday at 9 p.m. on HBO. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.